to a box full of cocaine and taking out 2 big handfuls and putting them in my pocket and walking out.
What'd you do with the cocaine after that?
Later, I gave it to some friends of mine on Long Island.
Who sold it for you?
Yeah.
The testimony of that crooked cop has shocked New York City like nothing seen there in over 20 years. But against it, as the image of a proud police department has taken a beating, is another story. That crooked cop was pursued for years by an honest policeman from the same force, a detective sergeant who faced enormous obstacles, some of them thrown up by his own department in his effort to get his man. But he never gave up. Here is the story of a determined police investigator, an honest cop, whom New York City Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly calls a hero.
During the period of time that I was following Michael Dowd, I hated him. And I hated the guys he was working with.
Sergeant Joseph Trimboli is an unlikely hero. 41 years old, divorced, according to his friends low-key, he's been on the New York City police force for 19 years. In the late 1980s, he was assigned by his unit commander to the trail of this man, a rogue cop named Michael Dowd. And he pursued him relentlessly, in large part single-handedly, in an effort to bring him to justice. As Dowd admitted in the recent public hearing, he was dirty up to his eyeballs.
How much were you going to get paid?
Well, my partner and I were to get $8,000 a week from a different organization.
So you're basically on retainer to the drug traffickers for this drug organization?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about trafficking drugs. Where were these drugs going? They were going to the kids in the streets, to the children transported by a New York City police officer. That was mind-boggling to me. I couldn't begin to accept something like that.
It was back in 1986 that Trimboli was first assigned to check out allegations against Dowd, an officer working out of Brooklyn's 75th Precinct. By late '87, the file of allegations was growing.
He's ripping off drug dealers. He's transporting drugs. He's making deliveries. He's associating with known dealers and things of that nature.
Who's making these allegations?
They're anonymous, but if you read them, for the most part, you get a sense that they're coming from police officers.
To understand how Michael Dowd and a ring of cops could operate this way, you have to know something about Brooklyn's 75th Precinct. It is a high crime area. Last Friday night, our primetime cameras arrived at a local restaurant just moments after a 17-year-old male was shot to death for no apparent reason. For a police officer, the 75th is a place of violence and of temptation.
I remember one instance of one particular drug dealer who was trying to get away from some rival dealers, and he went down in a hail of bullets and died on a stairwell. And in the belt in his groin, there was an additional $25,000 or $50,000. And a cop making $400, $450 a week looks at 50 G's in the pocket of a dead drug dealer. I think it's a tremendous temptation.
Trimboli began shadowing Dowd, watching what he did, where he went, who he saw. For a time, Dowd worked at the Whitestone Police Auto Pound, and from an apartment house rooftop nearby, Trimboli kept him under surveillance.
I wanted to see him leaving to go to meet somebody or somebody coming there to meet him, anything that would put him in association with a criminal element.
Now, what kind of equipment did you use?
A pair of binoculars.
What other help did they give you? What other equipment did they give you?
None.
What about an automobile?
No, I used my own car most of the time that I came here.
Trimboli's immediate superiors were sympathetic to his needs. But the people in the department's internal affairs building, the division charged with rooting out police corruption, didn't seem to care. Consider what happened when Trimboli investigated a tip that Dowd was associating with drug dealers in a building on Atlantic Avenue. This used to be what? It's a pool hall now.
Used to be Auto Sound City.
And this was the place you came?
This was the place operated by Adam Diaz and Baron Perez, 2 drug operatives.
Trimboli slipped in through an unguarded door and stumbled on a meeting of about 10 people.
Well, I got in the room, everybody froze, stopped what they were doing, looked up at me, and at that point in time, I was grabbed from behind. I really felt at that point that I was going to be knifed in the back or shot or something, and I was never going to make it out of the place.
What happened?
Well, it turned out that it was Baron Perez, and Baron was sort of the manager of this location.
Trimboli managed to talk his way out to the street, claiming he just wanted his car stereo fixed. But on the way out, he spotted someone else's car inside the place. Whose car did you see here?
Michael Dowd.
Michael Dowd, the bad cop.
Yeah.
Well, Perez also admitted to you, did he not, that he knew Dowd?
Yes, he did.
Well, did you forward all of this information?
Sure. All of this information was put on a worksheet and was forwarded to Internal Affairs.
And what happened?
Nothing.
The suspected connection between Dowd and the drug dealers got even firmer when a tip came in that Dowd was about to take a trip. Destination unknown. Trimboli started checking the airlines at Kennedy Airport.
We found a very accommodating individual who was a manager at a particular ticket location. And they said, you know, we're really not supposed to provide you with this kind of information. And I said, well, you got to give me a break here. I fly your airline all the time. She looked it up and she said, we do have a Dowd flying to the Dominican Republic. In fact, he's leaving in 2 days.
It hit Trimboli that the Auto Sound City ring was Dominican.
Will that little light go off in your head and this is not a pleasure trip? I don't believe it to be.
During the early stages of his investigation, Trimboli discovered he wasn't just chasing one bad cop, there were others.
I now suspected anywhere from 15 to 20 cops could now be involved in a criminal conspiracy in the 7-5 precinct.
In fact, when Dowd testified late last month, he confirmed that he wasn't operating alone.
When you went into these locations, what was your intention? To steal, I imagine.
Yeah.
What would you steal?
Money and drugs and guns, whatever was there.
What would you do with the money?
Split most of it up.
With your colleagues, the other
Yes.
cops?
Yes.
Trimboli needed help. Not only was he dealing with a ring of bad cops, in Dowd, he was dealing with a man who seemed to think he could get away with anything.
This was the audacity of this individual. Not only to commit the crimes that he committed, but this guy once attended a Christmas party, a precinct Christmas party involving cops, and made the statement, well, they still haven't arrested me yet, huh? And this was years before he was caught.
Trimboli's boss went to Internal Affairs for help, but they told him they couldn't spare anyone.
I was extremely angry with the people in Internal Affairs, and one interesting thing was I would maybe not send my worksheets forward the way they expected them to go forward, just as a way of harassing them or angering them.
Did that anger them? Did they come to you?
Yeah, what happened was 2 detectives came to me, one of whom knew me quite well, and he said, Joe, he says, you know, you're pissing them off. They want those worksheets. I says, yeah, I know, and I want their help. And he says, well, look, we got to have the worksheets because this is the hardest thing in New York City. He said, Sullivan gets these worksheets every Monday, and he brings them to Ward, and he reviews them.
You were told that Sullivan, who was in charge of Internal Affairs,
That's correct.
looked at them, passed them on to the police commissioner, Benjamin Ward,
Yes.
and that he looked at them.
Yes.
Did they tell you, Commissioner? Former Police Commissioner Benjamin Ward.
No, they didn't tell me. And Sergeant Trimboli is a hard-working guy, but obviously a little naive. Those detectives made up a story and said the big bad bear up there on the 14th floor in headquarters is upset because they're not getting his timesheet.
So you never saw Trimboli's worksheets?
Never saw him.
Ward says the police commissioner doesn't have time to read raw intelligence anyway. And he says he feels no particular responsibility for Dowd's having run free for so long.
Sergeant Trimboli said he spent 5 years chasing somebody that he admits he couldn't catch in 5 years. Now he wants to say he didn't have enough.
Didn't have any help. The only help he got from the police department was a pair of binoculars.
That's what he says. But you want to ask his bosses whether or not he ever asked for any help from anyone.
He says he asked for it repeatedly.
Well, let's see it documented. Let's see it on paper.
Benjamin Ward says now, no one told me. I didn't know anything about this.
I find that incredible.
Chief Daniel Sullivan, then head of Internal Affairs, says he too never saw Trimboli's worksheets. In March of 1989, he and his boss went down to Internal Affairs headquarters to appear before a group of ranking department officers, including a police inspector who wanted to investigate personally. Michael Dowd? No. to investigate Sergeant Joseph Trimboli.
He says to me, Sergeant, he says, by the way, how many trips have you made to South America? He says, you know, you seem to be living well above your means. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, I'm shocked. I'm angry. He points to my wrist and I'm wearing a Rolex. I'm wearing a bootleg $35 Rolex.
Can't they sell in Hong Kong or
Well,
Juarez?
you buy it on the corner in Manhattan. Mine was bogus, and I let them all know this is a $35 watch. I don't know what you people are talking about here. What am I being accused of here?
The accusations didn't stick. But from then on, Trimboli found it harder and harder to close on the case. And in October of 1990, Internal Affairs closed Trimboli's investigation of Dowd. Why?
They didn't want the scandal, obviously. I think that they hoped that it would go away.
How could it go away?
Well, that's the kind of question that I asked, especially after the cases were finally closed. How could it possibly go away? Someday this is going to blow up in everybody's face.
In May of last year, Michael Dowd was finally arrested, but not by the New York Police Department. Among other things, he was caught on videotape dealing cocaine by a police undercover team requested by the Suffolk County Police, who had been trailing Dowd in their jurisdiction. And it was the Suffolk County Police who arrested him. Joseph Trimboli wasn't in on the finish, but his long, lonely attempt to bring a bad cop to justice has not gone unrewarded. New York's new police commissioner, Raymond Kelly.
I've decided to promote Sergeant Trimboli at the department ceremonies at the end of this month. And no, the timing is not coincidental. We are sending a message to all other police officers that Sergeant Trimboli is our definition of a good cop.
Michael Dowd, the corrupt cop, has pled guilty to federal narcotics racketeering charges and will be sentenced next month. Shortly after Sergeant Joseph Trimboli is promoted to Special Assignment Commanding Officer of a detective squad.